The best piece of marriage advice, there was a study done years ago, 20 plus years ago by the Barna Institute, and they basically looked at how to lower the divorce rate in America and all these hundreds of different factors. And what they came up with is you could lower the divorce rate to 1.9%. 1.9%. And so if there's a silver bullet, against divorce, it's this. It's two things. It's couples that pray together regularly and couples that have strong biblical community.
Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
Years ago, I was a youth pastor, and there was a couple coming in for counseling, and the pastor's name was Fred. And Fred, the guy was a UPS driver, and so he would swing in and get free counseling. And the wife, they're fighting for their marriage. The wife, she was the cleaner of the church, so when she was cleaning, she would swing in. And Fred, bless his heart, he would never let them whine. He would always say, "Yeah, but what are you called to do?"
Yeah.
And it was all about fixing themselves, if I can say that,
yeah.
But getting themselves aligned.
Yes.
With their agreements and biblical responsibilities. And he never allowed them to finger point. And it was so profound for me as a 23, 24-year-old. Like, man, that's really good. Like, we just want to point our finger.
That's right.
But Fred would never let him. And that marriage, it's really cool what happened. The husband got in a bad car wreck and almost died. Not almost died, but he was shaken up really bad. And his wife suddenly realizes she actually cares a lot about him. And he actually realizes, I care a lot about her too. And God used that car accident to reunite them. So, wow. But I could hear, it was so cool because I got to hear Fred the whole time focusing on the individual and what they were called to do.
So our counseling process, we do probably about the first 75 to 80% of our, air quotes,
sure.
marriage counseling individually. Because it is truly working on the individual, just like you said. So many people, we all have a laundry list of issues. We all have
sure.
certain issues. And the problem is our laundry list is kind of hanging around right behind us, okay? It's kind of like right over your shoulder. So your spouse sees it all the time. They see your laundry list.
They know all of it.
They know all of it, and they're seeing it and sometimes reading it to you all day long.
Yeah.
Because it's right in front of them. The problem with that, I have absolutely zero control over my spouse and her laundry list. And so every time that I'm focusing on her list, what I'm doing is robbing myself from stopping, turning around, and looking at my own list. Because I have zero control over hers, and yet I have 100% over my own.
Get the log out of your eye.
That's it. That's exactly it. And every time we're focusing on our spouse's laundry list, we're ignoring our own, and we're robbing ourselves. And so it really is.
It's so much easier, though.
It's so much easier. It's so much easier. But it definitely does not work.
Yeah. Trey, where does faith come in?
Oh, it's the cornerstone of all of it. And so it's funny because people a lot of times will, hey, what do you do for a living? And because I go and speak at events and different things, and I'll be out, and people would just say, hey, what do you do for a living? And we've got a marriage ministry, and I'm a marriage counselor. And almost always the first thing that comes up is, oh, what's your best piece of marriage advice? Okay, which is a great question. And I love it because I love giving it. The best piece of marriage advice, there was a study done years ago, 20 plus years ago by the Barna Institute. And they basically looked at how to lower the divorce rate in America and all these hundreds of different factors. And what they came up with is you could lower the divorce rate to 1.9%. 1.9%. And so if there's a silver bullet, against divorce, it's this. And it's two things. It's couples that pray together regularly and couples that have strong biblical community. And so those both deeply revolve around faith. And so with my spouse, I'm not saying I recommend this or condone it, but you could look your spouse in the eyes and lie point blank to him. I mean, I did many, many times, hundreds of times for years.
Ginger can always tell when I'm lying. She does. She'll say, "Oh, I can see your mouth."
That's if your mouth is moving. I'm
not
just
a
kidding.
good liar. Don't even try.
And of course, Amy. I mean, we're in a whole different place
Yeah.
today, but you might be able to look your spouse square in the eye and just lie right to him, but you're not going to lie to God. And so, when a couple is praying together, that is a level of honesty and transparency that's unrivaled. And there's different forms of intimacy. The church, we try to sanitize sex and by calling it intimacy. And sex is the pinnacle of intimacy, but it's not intimate. There's emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, recreational intimacy. There's all these other areas. And so we tend to try to sanitize sex, which is a whole nother issue. But I can have intimacy. I can have all these other forms of intimacy, emotional intimacy, say with my wife, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily being completely honest with her. I can have, other forms of intimacy with friends, etc. But when I'm praying with her, there's an emotional intimacy. There's a spiritual intimacy. There's the rawest, honest, most true self that I can be, because I'm not going to lie to God. And so it draws your hearts together like almost nothing else can. And then having biblical community.
Hang on for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want some advice here.
Okay.
I really struggle. I really struggle with praying with my wife. I can pray for her. But do I have an authenticity issue? Probably.
Well, actually, what we just talked about. Let me ask you this.
Like it is like, and we'll talk about it, and I'll make it a goal, and I'll put it on the block. It maybe is one of the harder things. It's one of the things I honestly really struggle with.
Yeah.
And I want it, and I know it's good, and I can pray for her. I can put my hand on her, and we can be falling asleep, and I can do it. But for some reason, I struggle with being out loud about it with her. So. Counselor, talk to me.
There's a reason why. Every action, every inaction is predicated on a core belief. Okay? Because you know it's a good thing. You know it cognitively that I should and that I want to, but there's something in your heart that's holding you back from it. That separation from head to heart is almost always in agreement.
So I need to do some searching.
Somewhere you maybe think she'll judge you, or somewhere you think maybe you'll sound foolish, or you'll say the wrong thing, or somewhere, something like that. But every single action or inaction, there's a core belief. And so when we want to do something, but we're not, there's always a reason why.
That's good. I'm going to... Okay.
And you're not alone. It's not easy. But what I'll tell you, this is also an area that the devil loves to get into. I can't tell you how many couples, and even myself, the devil was like, hey, you're going to be found out as a fraud. She's not. She's more spiritual than you are. Her prayers are better than yours. She's going to look down on you. She's going to hear how stupid you sound. I mean, the devil doesn't play fair. He'll find your deepest insecurity, and he will work it.
Yeah, I need to figure that out because I want it.
Yep.
I know it, and I want it, but it is a struggle. It is a struggle. So thank you.
We have, I can't tell you how many couples been married for decades, and we dive into this, and they're like, we've never prayed together. I would say, if I had to guess, based on experience, 70-75% have been married for years and decades and have never truly, maybe at Thanksgiving, we threw up a prayer, before we ate or something like that. But I'm talking about holding hands, just the two of you, a truly deep, intimate prayer. I would say 75 to 80%. And these are Christian. We're a Christian ministry. These are Christian couples. I'd say 75% have never prayed together.
Like we pray together. I guess what I want is like a regular routine. That's what I struggle with because we can pray together. Whenever one of us brings it up, so I don't have a handicap there. I guess I want the discipline of it, and that's what I struggle with.
And that's different. That sometimes is just the discipline.
Because I remember I came back from base camp after you talked about praying during intimacy.
Yeah.
And we did that for a while.
Yep.
And
it's incredible.
Yeah. So I don't have an issue with the praying. It's the discipline, the consistency. The consistency is what I'm lacking.
Yeah. And what
but
I'll tell you,
you're probably right. There's something. There is something. There has to be something that is making it a non-priority.
Well, and it's funny because I'm looking at your hat, and you're wearing a hat that says "Kill Complacency," and a shirt that says "Intentional," but that's what we
sometimes
struggle.
I take my hat off, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to look at it. Put it back on.
But we struggle with that. I mean, we struggle with the complacency of just, you know what? If there's something wrong, we'll pray. We'll come together. Mm-hmm. But being intentional, making it a priority. And so but once again, just really searching your heart and going, okay, if I want this and it's something.
Yeah, what's the holdup?
Why am I not? What is inside of me that's holding me back? Because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yeah. And so it's doable.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I, of all people, like mindset, like let's figure this out. So yeah, I got no problem with some of that. Over the years, I have been coached by countless mentors, and now I want to offer that to you as well. How? By Marty Hofmann's Life Coaching. This will be a 6-week program in which I will guarantee you will develop a more growth mindset. We will set goals and learn about the importance of the processes and habits behind those goals. I will also help you see your story differently as things happening for you, not to you. We will also be discussing your future self and give you clarity on who that is and what it looks like. For more information, please follow the link below or hop on martyhoffman.com and follow the coaching link.
Can I ask a question real quick? Because
you
just threw a grenade, and I can only imagine some of the people listening, because you said, when I talk about at camp, praying during intimacy, and I'm sure a few people heard that and were like, what?
Okay.
Is that something we can dive into?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure? Okay. Because I will tell you, and if you'll give me just a second to a little bit of my soapbox.
You can dig into it or I can dig into it.
Okay.
If you want to, go for it. I'll comment.
So this is something, and I want to preface it with, there's always exceptions. Okay. I've not been to every church, haven't heard every.
This is powerful, guys. And women.
Ladies. Exactly. Ladies, let me tell you, this is actually as much or more for you than it even is for us. But the churches in general, okay, or let me rephrase that, the pulpits in general have pushed sex out of church. And what I mean by that, how many times have you heard a sermon on a Sunday morning that is talking about the power of sex, about God's divine, his purpose for it, the goodness of it, the holiness of it? And I'll tell you, as I've asked that question to thousands of people, I usually get about 2 to 5% that say maybe once. 95% have never.
Yeah, when's the last time your pastor preached through Song of Solomon?
Exactly, okay, exactly. And so, because the pulpits have pushed out sex out of the church, we don't hear about it. And as a matter of fact, if you hear about sex, it's usually from a youth pastor saying, don't do it, until you're married. And then you get married in big church and you never hear about it again. Or if you do, it's in a sinful light. It's through porn, it's through adultery, it's through lust, and it's always through a negative light. And so since the pulpits have kind of pushed out sex, us, the church, we've pushed God out of our sexuality. And so what you're alluding to is questions that I ask the guys at camp and different times when I'm speaking is I'll ask them, I go, we all think, we all say that sex is a gift from God. We tell our kids that. But do we truly believe that? We say it, but do we believe it? And so I'll go, I'm going to ask you to find out. How many of you in this room, raise your hand if you've prayed with your wife during sex? And I mean, it's crickets. I mean, there's, and everyone's looking at me, eyes go wide.
Nobody wants to admit it.
Yeah, nobody wants to. And I mean, their eyes go wide and they're like.
They've never thought about it.
They've never even thought about it. And I go, let me explain to you why. And I go, guys, don't raise your hand. And I only do this when it's men in the room, but ladies, it's good for you to hear this. And I always say, guys, if you ever had sex before marriage, outside of marriage, you've ever been to a strip club, porn, anything where there's been some kind of sexual sin, raise your hand. And I mean, 99% of the room goes up every time. And I go, that's why. What we've done is we've actually allowed the devil to overtake our sexuality. and we've never reclaimed it. Even though we know in our head that it's not wrong when it's with my wife, but there's all this area of sin, and without even understanding and realizing it, we often form a core belief, a deep, deep stronghold that sex is still sinful. And so it doesn't get talked about at church. We often don't talk about it as couples other than, hey, is tonight a good night? And then we have all this past sin that is often in there. The devil's just wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people, if you want to truly reclaim this, pray. Pray during sex.
Out loud.
Out loud. And of course, people, like I said, their eyes go wide and they're like, do what? And I tell them, I go, here's the issue. If there's anything you're doing and you can't pray while you're doing it, you got to stop and ask yourself why. If there's any single thing you're doing and you can't pray while you're doing it, why?
And maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Either you shouldn't be doing it or you need to do some deep heart work. But that's evidence that so often, I mean, the God of the universe, we say he's omnipotent and omniscient, but then like when it comes to our sex life, like he turns a blind eye, all of a sudden it's gross or whatever. And it's like, but that's the problem. We've pushed God out of our sexuality. And then we wonder why it's such a point of contention, even in the church. The divorce rate in the church and out of the church is only about 0.6. The lust, the porn, the affairs, I mean, it's almost identical in the church as it is out of the church. And the reason is we allow God into our hearts and then we push him out of our bedroom. That's why we're in the state that we are. And you have to bring God back into it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that was you talked about some of the practical things that my wife and I did. This was one of them. I needed it for my heart. I desperately had to get my mind right. There was so much sexual sin for years. And she kind of did too, not sexual sin, but her whole thing. And I can tell you, I've heard this so many times from wives. I know where his body is. I have no idea where his mind's at. What's he thinking about? Who's he thinking about? An image on a screen or whatever.
Well, that's their biggest concern.
That's it. And so this is an area where we pray, we bring God into it. It begins to heal and cleanse our heart. But now in her mind, I mean, I can't tell you how many women afterwards come back and go, I don't just know where his body is, I know where his head and his heart are. And they're set on God and they're set on me. And it's incredible how healing it can be.
That's good. Good nugget right there.
Well, it's kind of my soapbox.
And guys shouldn't initiate it, but women listening could go there as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And by the way, we're talking about guys, and I was, did men's ministry in my story, doing counseling with women. There's not a shortage of sexual sin there either.
Yeah.
There's a ton of hurt and ton of issues.
It's easy. It's easier for you and I to talk guy stuff. So.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe at some point we'll have Amy in here and have you guys as a couple and do a couple session or something. But
it's funny because she kind of grew up in a little bit of the kind of that purity culture, which is a good thing. But what happens when that purity culture inadvertently, because once again, the devil gets in and turns these things. He finds a little bit of truth and, then exaggerates it. And so is it good to stay pure? Absolutely. That's God's plan and blessing. But then afterwards, the devil comes in and is like, hey, that's really is dirty. It really is sinful. It really is. And
well, that's what I was going to say the church does is they call it dirty.
That's exactly right. Instead of it's holy. It's holy. It is the deepest form of intimacy. Sex is literally a picture. Our marriage in Ephesians 5 is compared to Christ, to our relationship with Jesus. I mean, Paul's very clear about that. Well, guess what? Sex is a picture of our intimacy with Christ, where two are becoming one, and we become one through the Holy Spirit dwelling inside of us. And so, it is actually an incredibly holy thing, which is why the devil goes after it so hard. It's why there's so much sexual sin, because the core of it is unbelievably good and holy.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Talk to me, Trey, more personal.
Yeah.
How do you balance your personal life with, I can call it your professional life, your counseling? Like it's easy to hear these stories and talk to these people, but maybe what are some intentional things you and Amy do to continue to work on your marriage?
Yeah, absolutely. So One, we have intentional community. And
Oh, yeah, I cut you off on that earlier.
no, that's all right. And
Yeah.
so having intentional community is so incredibly important. And that's something that's really, really big to us. So every Sunday night, we kind of have like a home church group. And that is our core community. We do life together. You know, we go on vacations together, all kinds of different things. And that is actually a huge issue of keeping our marriage strong. And so, and all these things, by the way, take work. They take intentionality. They take a sacrifice, and they take time. Because would it be easier on a Sunday night to say, man, you know, it's been a really busy week. It's going to be a busy week. I'd rather lay on the couch and watch football. Absolutely. But that's not what's best for my marriage. And God knows that. And so having biblical community is a big part for us. And then two, we love to go out and do things together, intentionally dating your spouse. In fact, we're going out tonight. We've kind of been fasting for, you know, kind of this Advent season. And so we're coming off of our fast today, and we're like, where are we going to eat tonight? So we're looking forward to a date night.
Hope you don't have to wait in line a while.
Yeah, exactly.
All the food.
Well, we're going to be with all the old people going early because we're so hungry. So we'll probably be there as soon as the doors open. But it's one of those things that we're just very intentional. We love to go on walks together. You know, of course, she works with me, so we do a lot of our ministry together. But just those things of being intentional, taking time for each other. And sometimes it's not even just about dates and each other. It's things like, okay, am I in my word? Am I allowing God to work in me?
Yeah.
Because that's actually the best thing I can do for her, is making sure that God's always continuously working in me, but then having that community, you know, all those kinds of things. And so, yes, it's dates and things with each other, but it's also just doing the things to make sure that we're focusing on God first.
I like that you brought that up, taking care of you. Jim Rohn, you know that name?
Oh, yeah.
He had a quote like that. Like, you can't take care of anybody till you take care of you. Like, you've got to be feeding yourself and taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I think that my wife and I have talked a lot about this with moms specifically who feel like they don't have time even to exercise. They feel guilty, as Ginger has said. They feel guilty exercising because they feel like they have their other responsibilities. But it's so important and so pivotal. I mean, even the way you said, you talk about counseling, it's 80% individual. Like, you got to get your stuff together first. And there's things we can do to fix the mess, but so much of that, there's so much preventative things, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where that comes in, being in the Word and exercising or whatever, so you can, your mind's clear and you're not just having to rely on that spouse for that validation all the time. And it doesn't have to just be the couple. It can be you're strong in yourself and
that's it. There's a very clear line in God's economy. And so I think all of us, or most of us, there's this deep desire, especially if you're married and have kids. I want to be a good mom or a good dad. Okay. And even what you just said, mom feels guilty. Well, really what's she saying? Because if I'm taking time away from the kids, for me, it feels wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, which is mom guilt is a very real thing. Now, let me preface one thing with that. It's very real. It's not true. Okay.
It's an agreement.
Feelings are real, but they're often really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you feel something, it's real. You're really feeling it. It doesn't mean it's true or right. Lust is a very real feeling. Doesn't make it right. Hatred is a very real feeling. Doesn't make it right. Mom guilt is a very real feeling. Doesn't make it right. Okay, so that's the first thing to acknowledge. Just because we feel something doesn't mean that it's right. And this is why we have to take every thought captive to make it obey Christ. But when we go back kind of, into marriage, most of us want to be a good parent. We want to be a good mom, good dad. We want better for our kids than maybe what we had or how, whatever. But in order to be a good mom or good dad, we have to first be a good husband or a good wife. Because our greatest admonition, I'm going to speak to the dads real quick. Our greatest admonition as a father is, one, to lead our kids to the Lord, and then two, to show them what a God-honoring marriage looks like. Because we're commanded to love our bride as Christ loves the church. And so, man, in order to be a good father, I've got to be a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a guy, I mean,
it's the best. I mean, it's the easiest.
Exactly.
You do so much for your kids if you're a good husband.
That's it. And I remember the first time I had a guy ask me this. Matter of fact, when I was just coming out of my affairs and Amy and I were trying to recover, and he asked me, he goes, how have you been as a dad? And I was like, man, I've been an awesome dad. You know, I've coached all their stuff. I've been to all their things.
Wrong
I'm a
answer.
great dad. And he looked at me and he goes, no, you haven't. And man, I felt something inside. Like I got my chest puffed out a little bit and I kind of sat up in my chair and I was like, no, dude, like I've been a horrible husband. I acknowledge that, but I've been a good dad. And he just looked at me and he goes, no, you haven't. And I mean, by this point I wanted to punch him in the throat. You know, I mean, I was at that point. And I finally had enough humility that I said, okay, let me hear it. And that's when he told me this. He said, what have you taught your boys about love, about commitment, about how to treat your wife? Because that's how we're commanded to love our bride as Christ loves us. And just this, I mean, this overwhelming truth hit me going, I thought I'd been a really good dad. I knew I'd been a bad husband. I thought I'd been a good dad. And realizing I'd actually been a worse father than I was husband. Mm-hmm. Because what was I teaching my boys about love and commitment and about Jesus and their mom and all of that? And it hit me. And I was like, he's absolutely right.
Well, and your kids, maybe this isn't fair to say, but your kids to some extent were a threat to oneness.
Yes.
Because you were, I don't know that part of your story very good, but you were potentially spending time with them that you should have been spending with your spouse.
Yes. And that's it.
If you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store. It's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com. Mindsetshop.com. Ginger and I, we were newly married. My dad gifted us with We Can Remember Family Life.
Oh, yeah. Great conference.
We went to Canada for it. And the first night, they talked about, I think it was 5 threats to oneness. Mm-hmm. And I had never, you know, I just thought it was sex or adultery, you know, like that's what it is. But no, they talked about work and they talked about kids. I remember those, and there was 2 others. Yep. But I remember, and I was thinking like, kids, like that's for real. Like, people will avoid their spouse, hang out with their kids, and that becomes a threat.
That's right. And it is. I mean, we often think we're being good parents by putting our kids over our spouses. And it's like, you're not. And that's a hard truth to sometimes stomach. But there's one other step to it. In order to be a good mom, good dad, I have to first be a good husband, good wife. But in order to be a good husband, good wife, I have to first be a good son or good daughter to my Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. There's a very clear line. I've got to have my heart, my walk, my life right with Jesus. That's going to pour over into my marriage and take intentionality. It's going to take me working on it. It's going to take sacrifice. And then my kids see that. They experience that. And what I will tell you, I've got 3 sons, 25, 21, and 18. My oldest son is a pastor, married. He and his wife, their first kiss was on their wedding day. I mean, truly saved himself in a day and time like this. Just incredible. And my middle son, who's 21, is engaged. They're saving themselves, but he is chasing Jesus with all of his heart. By the time he graduated high school, he had probably led 300 to 400 youth to Christ. He's preached in, I don't know, probably 15 different cities around America and like 4 or 5 different countries around the world. My youngest son, who's 18, just graduated high school, is a deal called YWAM, Youth with a Mission. Getting ready to, here in about 2 weeks actually, to go to Guinea-Bissau, Africa to do missions for like 3.5 months. And so what I can tell you is I get a lot of guys that have grabbed me over the years that have met my sons or heard about them, and they'll say, man, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And like, what's your parenting advice? What's your father advice? You know, your boys are amazing. And I tell them, I go, live it out.
Yeah.
Live it out. Make sure that you are walking with Jesus with everything in you, and they're going to see it and they're going to want it.
Well, imagine, Trey, the difference, and we don't know this, but imagine the difference if we went into a time machine and you didn't change the way you fathered and you continued to give them validation through their ball games.
Yeah.
Rather than through your marriage.
Yep.
I mean, we don't know, but I don't
Right.
think they'd be where they are.
No.
But when you had that mindset, when you shifted your priorities to Amy, it anchored, solidified, it gave a foundation for those boys to build off of and realize it was real and authentic. And I imagine a lot of that too was you coming to them and telling them you're sorry.
Yeah.
And you messed up. I mean, that was probably huge.
And I did, and I had to do that multiple times. And, at some point, each one of my boys telling them our story, and having to have some very honest conversations with them about some of that. And, but what that's done in them, all three of them are chasing Jesus with everything in them, seeking wives that are godly women. And I couldn't ask for anything more. And, is there anything wrong with soccer tournaments, baseball tournaments? None at all. They're great.
I'm not trying to say
yes,
that.
those are good things.
But it can be a distraction.
Yes, that's it. It can be a distraction. And once again, if those things get over the marriage, you think you're being a good parent. You're not. If those things are getting over God, if we're putting even our kids over God, we're not being good parents. There's a very clear line in God's economy. And I believe the devil uses a whole lot of mom guilt against a lot of really good moms.
It's good stuff. Trey, I know you're an Advent reader. Tell me, what's a favorite book or favorite quote?
Man, so here lately, I've really gotten into a lot of Neil T. Anderson, and just kind of some of the spiritual world, the spiritual battles. And there's a couple of books from his, Victory Over the Darkness, Bondage Breaker, but he also has one called Discipleship Counseling. And you would read that and you'd think, okay, well, that's for counselors. And it's really not.
Sounds boring.
It sounds boring. Yeah, exactly. And I can't get enough of it. And basically in a nutshell, Neil Anderson's a guy who got his master's degree in engineering, then felt God call in his heart to become a pastor. So he goes into school and gets his master's in divinity and theology. And after several years of pastoring, he actually says, he goes, I knew how to preach. I had no idea how to help the people in my church.
How to
really shepherd. And so he goes back to school to get his counseling to help the people in his church, and just gets not consumed, but in a good way, is like just kind of mesmerized by it, ends up getting his PhD in counseling and psychology. And so here's a guy with 2 masters, a PhD, all this. And what he basically says is, look, it's not physiological. It's spiritual. It's spiritual. And we as the church as general, we've outsourced mental health to doctors and counselors.
That's so true.
And it is the church's role. And the problem is, we live in a day and time, more counselors, more psychologists, more psychiatrists, more mental health facilities, more drugs, more therapies, modalities, treatments than ever in human history. And we're in the middle of the greatest healthcare crisis in history, which means those things aren't the answer. Yet simultaneously, while all of that's been building, America's pulled further and further away from God. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see it. All those things, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not the answer. Jesus is.
That's good. Okay, one last question for you.
Okay.
What's your final message? Let's say something happens to you on the way home.
Yep.
What do you want the world to hear Trey say for the last time?
What I want you to hear is the meaning of life. Okay. And I know that that's like almost a big ridiculous statement, but it's true. The meaning of life is this. It's to learn to love and to learn to be loved, because God is love. John 3:16, for God so loved the world. John 13:35, Jesus said, the world will know you're my disciples by your love for one another. 1 Corinthians 13, the whole love chapter. I can move a mountain, give my body to be burned, but without love it's nothing. Faith, hope, and love abide, but the greatest of these is love. But the coup de grace, 1 John 4:8, God is love. And so the meaning of life, literally everything that we live our lives for, in, around, the core of what our heart is searching for, is to be loved and to learn how to love.
So choose love.
Choose love. That's exactly it.
That's good. Trey, how do people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
So you can find us, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, just search Trey Dixon. You can also go to our website, choosinglove.info. We've got all kinds of things on there, our social media, Instagram, Facebook. We do marriage conferences, counseling, retreats, something that, we go to different churches. So if your church is looking for something, we'd love to partner with you and do that. So, man, any way we can connect with you, we'd be honored to.
Okay.
So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives, to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.